So on the next part of the course, I want to talk about different types of spells. So we did candle spell, we did a charm. It's not so much about whether it's a healing or a hexing or a jinxing, that sort. It's about kind of the mechanisms behind the spells. That's what I want to separate. So today what I want to focus on is a petition spell, a petition-based spell. Now what petition-based spells do is really, when we look at the first two videos, we were putting the majority of the effort into making the spells work. The energy, that we were putting that in, or we were bringing in ingredients and energetic centers in order to power our spell. When we think about petition spells, what we're really thinking about is getting a spirit to do the dog work for us. So if you wanted to do a money spell, before we could have done a light a candle, we could have pushed energy out ourselves, we could have incorporated other ingredients like herbs and such. But if you were doing a petition-based spell, a petition-based money spell, you would be asking a spirit. Hermes, for example, you might ask to get money for you. So the reason why I want to do petition-based spells now is because it starts adding in another dimension, and that is spirits. So a big question, what is spirits? Well, I did, what are spirits even? I did a video about what are spirits and ghosts and all that sort of thing. So if you want a detailed explanation, then go and watch that. But what we're going to assume is we're going to assume that spirits, whether you believe it or not, are sentient energy forms. So sentient, something that has power that doesn't have a physical body. Okay, so we could think of lots of famous gods and goddesses from Greek or Roman, or even we could think of the Bible. We could think angels and stuff like that. They're all technically spirits. So if I'm asking a spirit to do the spell for me, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting a petition together. And most of the time these are kind of written petitions. Prayer is essentially a form of petition, but normally what you'll tend to find in a lot of spell casting petitions, particularly in hoodoo and things like that, is you get people to get some paper and a pen and write down what they want, and then fold the paper up. They might burn it, but essentially they're going to be giving that as a program to a spirit. So if you think of, if you wanted to petition a saint in Catholicism, what you're doing is you're saying, I need to hurry this up, so I'm going to petition Saint Expedite to see what Saint Expedite can do to help hurry this thing up. Okay, so maybe you've got I don't know, you're expecting a really important document in the post. What I could do is I could say, okay, I'm a Catholic, I'm going to go to Saint Expedite to expedite the situation, to make things quicker, to get my post delivered on time. I'm going to write a petition to Saint Expedite telling him what I want, and then I might go and, you could buy a Saint Expedite burning candle and put the petition underneath the candle and burn it, or something like that. Or you might just go to a Saint Expedite shrine, or you might just, write the petition out and post it in a post box, because it's kind of relevant in that you're expecting something to go to the post. Write out something, put it in an envelope, stick it in the post box. It'll go in undelivered mail, I know, but that's kind of what you're talking about. If I wasn't Catholic, if I was, say, a pagan or something like that, then I might approach, for the same problem, I might approach a Hermes, because Hermes rules over communication and that sort of thing. So I might be thinking, well, Hermes, you might be able to speed this along, so I'm going to petition you. What we're going to do for an example of a petition is I'm going to do a petition-based spell. Now, I'm going to be working with a spirit in order to not necessarily fix a problem, but help a situation that I'm aware of may need fixing in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be thinking about the situation that I want. So this situation is someone that is essentially dying. They're very, very ill. They will be dying at some point over the next couple of years. They've got a terminal condition. Now, said person doesn't want any magical help, but the person did say, well, actually, if you could put in a good word for me, then put in a good word for me. What they're worried about is having a horrifically painful death. So I figured, well, I'm not going to use magic to heal the person or fix the situation. What I'm going to do is take on board what they asked for. So what I'm thinking is, well, okay, the person is okay with dying, but they're worried about how they're dying. Okay, so well, what would I do? I would think, okay, what do I know of that I've worked with from in terms of spirits that can help with this process? If I wasn't a witch and I didn't work with spirits and such, I might perhaps flick through a book and stuff and look at things, spirits and stuff like that, that might be associated with the thing that I'm looking for. So we're talking about death. So what I see some people do is flick through a book on spirits, and they might see some spirit that's associated with death. Maybe Hades, who rules over the underworld, or something like that. Or maybe someone like Hermes, as we mentioned already, who helps the transportation of death, but also involves himself in healing. Now, I do worry sometimes about, because I see problems with this, about people that just willy-nilly try and contact a spirit that they have nothing to do with, and then go and badger it and ask it to do something for them. So if I conjured up or petitioned Hermes to do something, and I've never worked with Hermes before, I don't know the energy or anything like that, I have no rapport with that spirit, might not necessarily end particularly well. He might not pay any attention to me whatsoever, assuming that he even exists. So the problem is getting to know spirits before you start asking them. Much like it can be a little bit rude to go and knock on some random person's house and say, any chance you can come over and help me put some wallpaper up? Sorry mate, I don't know who you are. Slam the door in your face. Can be a little bit about that. It depends on your ethics, moralities, and how you see these things working. There's lots of different schools of thought. Some would say you should get to know the spirit first. Others would say, nah, what you would do is, because certain spirits just love to, like angels, love to do the job they're assigned, or the role they're assigned, as soon as you put that job in front of them and ask them to get involved with a job that's similar to what they love doing, or what they're designed for, they'll do it. But ultimately what I'm thinking of now is I'm thinking in terms of what I would do and what I would expect you to do. So if you're a Christian, you might be thinking about getting the Bible and using some petition-based prayer with the Bible. If you're a pagan, then you might be thinking, well, what deities and spirits do I work with, have I experienced? If you don't know any, then you could take the risk of petitioning a spirit that you've never worked with before and don't know. However, what might be a good idea is to perhaps ask other people and do a little bit of research on whether this spirit has a reputation for A, getting involved in helping people, and B, not being too unkind to those that just ask. So some spirits have a little bit of a reputation. Now the spirit I'm talking about today that I'm going to be using a petition for this spell that I'm writing is a spirit called Santa Muerte. Death, essentially, the personification of death. Now Santa Muerte is becoming more and more popular. She seems to answer a lot of requests. There are so many people out there that will testify to the fact that they've never really approached her before, and yet she'll answer their call and help them. Now, with the situation that we're talking about, is helping someone die in a nice, gentle way. So this isn't a killing curse. I don't want the person to die, but it's a terminal condition that I want to alleviate a little bit of the pain and suffering that's involved. So because Santa Muerte is the personification of death, she is essentially death itself, might be a good idea to ask death, when you come and take this person, take her gently. Don't make it painful. I'm not forcing this spirit to do that. I'm asking. Petition, prayer, similar. So because we work with Santa Muerte on various different things, and this is a spirit that I've worked with before, we actually have a Santa Muerte altar. So I do work with Santa Muerte. In terms of its very general procedures for spirits, it's generally often a good idea to, if you're asking for something, give something in return. If your next door neighbour helps you put up some wallpaper, maybe buy them a couple of beers or ciders and drop them off. They might not be expecting it and they might not need it to do the job, but could be considered rude if you keep asking and asking and asking, and this is a one-way kind of thing. Now, in terms of the mystery of whether spirits really need offerings, that's outside of the scope of this video, but we will talk about it in the future, so don't worry about that. But we're going to be writing a petition to Santa Muerte, and I'm going to talk you through the process of what I would probably get a client to do, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some paper. Now I've got some nice paper. It's actually card in an assortment of different colours and some nice fancy pens. Do you need those things? No, the answer to that is no. But essentially what I'm almost doing is writing a letter to Santa Muerte. So because I'm doing that, and because I'm asking for a little bit of help in that, what I really want to do is I want to put a little bit of thought into it. I want to put a little bit of effort into it. So I've decided that I'm going to do it on black paper, and I'm going to do it with some nice kind of gold, silver and bronze pens. So I'm going to select one, and I'm going to actually just note down what it is that I want. So I'm going to write a letter essentially to Santa Muerte, and explaining what I want, and to a certain extent the time frames that I want to happen. So what do I want? Of course I want the person in question, and I'm not going to tell you who it is obviously, because that would be confidential, but I want the person in question to be taken, reaped, escorted from life into the realms of death, peacefully. Do not allow blank, the person, to suffer. And I could give an example of how. So I could say, please take, insert name of person, again, peacefully in their sleep. We want them to remove any pain and fear, because for a lot of people dying is quite a scary thing. Remove any pain and fear from the dying process. So now I've written it, I've left the name of the person out because I'm going to fill it in after the camera basically stopped rolling. And I want to take this and essentially I'm going to now write the name of the person on it, and then I'm going to fold it up basically. Now that I've thought long and hard and I've actually written my petition out, now what I've got to do is I've got to do something with this petition. So you'll find a lot in spell work that they tell you to burn a candle, or they tell you to do this or that. Now we work with this spirit a lot, so we have a permanent altar set up to that spirit. When we build altars and things, we normally do it because it's useful, yeah? if I put a desk in the corner to sit my computer on, and it's a big desk with writing equipment and stuff, I do that because I'm often on the computer and often writing. Therefore, it suits me because I do a lot of that, so it makes sense that I have a desk. I don't have a house or a shop or a building full of lots of different altars to every spirit imaginable. The ones that I work with all the time, like this one, I might have something set up because it makes sense because I'm using them so much. They may as well have a little room or a little section on a cabinet or something there. It makes sense, doesn't it, right? If I didn't have an altar set up, then I might take this and I've essentially got to give it to Santa Muerte. So what is Santa Muerte? Santa Muerte is death. So in terms of where is death, where would I find death, where would I put something related to death? To me, the graveyard springs to mind. So I might take this and I might continue to fold it up and I might go for a little walk to the graveyard and leave this somewhere in the graveyard. I might bury it because if I just chuck it down in the graveyard, that's littering. Probably not a good idea. It's paper and it's biodegradable at the end of the day. Now, if I was to say, you know, in terms of the payment and I gave the next door neighbour some beers and ciders or a nice bottle of wine because he helped me put the wallpaper up when I was redecorating, the equivalent of this is some sort of a payment, some sort of gesture or something to show your appreciation. Now, what I tend to do is because I'm expecting Santa Muerte to go out of her way to do something. It's obviously easily within her power to do so, but she's still going outside of her way to do something for me. I feel that I should go outside of my way, out of my way to go and do something for her. Now, she's a powerful spirit. She don't really need anything from me. So in terms of symbology, what I'm working at is I'm looking at making some sort of an offering or something. So what I like to do is I like to go and collect spring water for offerings to do with death deities and the dead in general. Spring water, of course, comes from the ground. Where do we bury dead people? In the ground, yeah? So I've collected this spring water from the spring that you've probably just seen. What I'll do is, if I was to go and take this to the graveyard, I might bury this in the graveyard and I might pour some of this spring water on top of it. Now, because I do quite a lot of work with Santa Muerte, as I've already said, I've got an altar set up to her. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put this on the altar and I'm going to pour some of this in a little dish or a bowl or a glass on the altar as well. So let's have a little look at this altar. So here's Santa Muerte's little corner in the consultation room. Now, she likes to be quite high up, so she's actually on the top shelf of this tall cabinet. This cabinet's basically a little bit taller than what I am. She has a dish, which is normally where we would get people to leave their petitions or leave offerings and stuff. And she also has a little black and white offering bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my petition for Santa Muerte on here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the spring water that I collected and pour it in. And I'm going to thank her for hearing my petition. I'm going to leave that on there. Now, when it comes to altars and things like that, and offerings to be put on altars, there are many different things that people use. What we tend to use is things that are biodegradable. So the water is just going to run away. A very popular thing to use for offerings is a lot of incenses and that. Because not only can you burn them, we've got an incense burner at the back, which actually lets the smoke rise up and goes over this crystal ball at the back. It's used for some scrying and divination. This is one of the incenses that we use. It's a Samhain incense. It was from the Dumb Supper that we did last year, and there's a little left over. So what I've been doing is I've been taking a little bit and I've been adding it a little bit at a time to the bowl or the dish. Some people like to think of offerings as food for the spirit. Generally, I would say it's more of an appreciation thing. So this altar is a small altar. We have done huge altars before when it comes to events and things like that, because of course we do a lot of teaching. We also do a lot of events. Some of them are necromantic events like the Dumb Supper. And the more people that get involved, the bigger the altar kind of needs to be. So this is more of a personal altar for that I use and for the consultation room for general working. But what we might do if we were putting on a large event, say we were holding a Dumb Supper, you can watch the Dumb Supper video on the Thoth TV YouTube channel if you don't know what that is. But Santa Muerte, because she is a personification of death, we might take this altar and give her her own section, a VIP section, on the bigger ancestor altar, because of course people often use altars as gateways and doorways to connect with spirits as well. So although this one is designed to work with Santa Muerte, you can see her kind of image in the back, a little figurine. When working with the dead in general, people often make ancestral altars or altars of the dead. Because she is deaf, we often will put her as her own section or own shelf a little bit higher behind the ancestral altar. Now, when it comes to changing this, what I will do is I will leave this petition under here and the various bits and pieces until the water inside here evaporates. Now, it is evaporation, so it's not something super magical, but the process of me leaving things here, bearing in mind it's not slavers of cake or meals and things like that like we do with the Dumb Supper, so it's not really going to rot. It will stay there and it will be okay, but I don't want to leave it there forever and ever and ever. So when this gets depleted, what I'll do is I'll put all of this in an envelope, because there might be other people's petitions and stuff by that point. And I'll put it in an envelope, and then I personally will go and leave it at the crossroads or a graveyard site. Why a graveyard? Because obviously previously mentioned, death, graveyards, kind of the in-between. Why a crossroads? If I wanted to use a crossroads, well, crossroads cross is two intersections. And when we're talking about death, we're really talking about this physical world and the etheric afterlife, the other world. So the crossroads is kind of almost symbolic of between the two of them. So offerings and stuff, you will find people recommend that you leave offerings for spirits and such, and discard spells, or the physical remains of spells, discard them at the crossroads. So when this water evaporates, I'm actually going to take it to the crossroads this time, because I've got a couple of other little bits and pieces to get rid of. So there we go, that's the basics of petition work. If you wanted to just connect with a spirit and get to know the spirit before you start petitioning, creating an altar to that spirit is quite a good way of doing that. So you build the energy there, you get to know it, you may do a little bit of scrying or something with it, attempting to form a relationship with the spirit before you actually keep asking it to do things for you, because that's generally considered polite. Now, yes, of course, we will go into other spirits and dealing with spirits in other videos, but that's outside of the scope of the basic section of our super simple basic spell casting course. So there we go.